So you're interested in creating a story, maybe one for kids? Episode 1, I talked about the idea. In episode 2, let's talk about creating the habit. So stay tuned. Hey fellow story lovers and creatives. I am continuing down this path on helping you create an amazing kids book of your own or a story of your own, depending on who you're making your story for. In episode 2, we are going to continue on our path on creating this book. Right now we're still in the initial steps, trying to move through ideas and really make them stick. And in episode 2, what we're going to talk about is the habit, meaning the habits that you need to form to make this happen. Because ideas are great, and you can sell ideas all day long. But if they're not actually down in their final form, they're much harder to sell to a general population. They're not as much fun if they haven't gone through all that polish and everything that it takes to really take an idea and turn it into something beautiful, something amazing that the world will love. And I know that you can do something like that. So step 2, episode 2, whatever you want to call it, working through creating good habits is going to help you get there. So what does it take? Well, for me, it took countless hours. So if you've watched episode 1, you would have seen that I showed you my 2 books that I created. Nellybug, the story of the first Tooth Fairy, and the second book, where she kind of goes on a really cool, fun adventure. These started out as ideas, but what it took for me is years of work. I mentioned in episode 1 that this book took me 7 years to write. This one took me 1 year to write. Part of that process was learning how to write a book, how to put a book together, and learning how to smooth and shrink that time frame of 7 years down to 1 year. Since then, I've written one other book in a different series, and I'm almost done writing the 3rd book in this series. This is where I'm at in my snapshot on life. I know you might be watching this episode, and I'm in a completely different place than I was at the time that I recorded this, but that's fine. It's all a part of my journey and your journey. I know that we can get there, so let's work on that. What did it take for me to create those books? What took 7 years? What took 1 year of work? And why did that time frame shrink? What it took was a lot of work. It took writing a lot of words down. It took learning the story writing process. It took learning what makes a good story, what components or pieces were missing from a story, and how to make sure that I had those components in place and really polished them up so, things really shone in the story. The way to get there to the finish line is taking baby steps. In episode 1, we talked about writing your ideas down, capturing those ideas, pushing those ideas, plussing those ideas, and really developing and, taking your ideas and really pushing them as far as you can take them until you kind of see them in a new angle that really just kind of solidifies your idea into a place where I can develop this idea and turn it into a full story. If it's a picture book or a chapter book, a thick novel for kids, or even like Harry Potter was a huge one. How do you get down there? And it's baby steps. It's working hard day by day. It's creating little habits that push you to make this story happen. For me, the thing that's created the difference from a book that took me 7 years to make to a book that took me 1 year to make is changing the way that I thought to thinking that I needed to make a little bit every day. Even if I was just doing a little bit towards my book, even if it was just a small amount, I was making it happen. So I wasn't, seeing 5,000 words written in one day, because I was not in that place in my life right now where I could do something like that. Still not right now. I have a full-time job in the healthcare field. It's creating that habit and then making these small steps to get there. Yeah, and it's taking these small steps to get there, because with these small movements, these small steps, you can make amazing things happen. So even though you're not seeing chapters written in a whole day, 2 chapters, 3 chapters, all the illustrations, whatever all those little steps are that makes your project come to life, we'll talk about later what those aspects might be to your book, to your story. it doesn't matter. You don't need to see those all falling into place quickly. If you have this habit where you're making them happen in small chunks, you'll get there. Make it something that you can quantify, something that you can measure, even if it's small. I want my habit to be this year that I'm going to write 100 words a day. 100 might sound like a big number, but honestly, once you write a paragraph and realize that was basically half of my goal was one paragraph, it's not as hard. We'll talk about some ideas on how to, break that up, make it more measurable, and make you see that you're actually getting there. Yeah, we'll get to all of that, but right now I want the idea to sink in that if you're making little steps to get there, you're gonna get there. One thing that helped me create my habit and really solidify that habit is participating in a challenge. You can find a challenge where you can find other people that are interested in creating things like you're interested in creating. For me, it was something called NaNoWriMo, which is this social media event that kind of comes around the idea of all these authors wanting to create stories. NaNoWriMo sounds like a weird word because it's a super abbreviation. It stands for National Novel Writing Month. More than anything, it's a way for authors to get together and just support each other as they're working towards this goal of writing a novel in 1 month. Sounds crazy. I did it last year. I wrote this really cool novel, completely different series from my previous work, around a different character in a totally different world. It was super fun participating in this challenge, and as I would, post updates on my progress, even when it was small progress on some days, I had my daily goal that I knew I needed to help me get there, to write my 50,000 words, which is what the group usually uses as their target goal, is 50,000 words equals one novel. You definitely don't have to do that. Don't feel like my novel needs to be 50,000 for me to succeed. If you want to participate in a challenge, just come up with a goal that you feel like you can go after and do that. Once you create and go after this smaller goal, you could try again next year or in 6 months, whenever you feel up to it. And you did that. You accomplished what you did before, and then you can push yourself a little bit farther. That's what I really loved about that. And creating the story that I created, which at the time I just had the name for it. I haven't published it yet, but I'm still going through like the editing process and the steps of polishing that story. But at the time I was calling it Shark Boy because it's about this boy and anyways, merges powers with sharks because I have a son that loves sharks. So I didn't write a story about him, but I wrote a story trying to write a story that I knew he would love. And that was really my inspiration, my idea. And I just kind of went from there, and I pulled other things into it too, and it turned into this fun story and this fun challenge to participate in. And I felt all this great support when I was working on this goal. So find a support structure that's working towards the same thing. People that are espousing that habit, that they want to get to that same goal, and work with them, and you can get there. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk to you about was consistency. Consistency will help you get there as well, because it's wonderful to say I have this idea, I'm working towards this thing, but if it's coming and going in spurts and then in tiny little trickles and then big spurts and then tiny little trickles, it gets so inconsistent that it's hard. So it'd be better, even if it's small steps, that they're small steps. They're happening every day, instead of I just wrote like 5,000 words yesterday and now I just need to take a week off. That was crazy. Or even if you have a job that's really hard and when you get to the end of the day, I don't have a ton of energy, or it's hard to wake up early in the morning, but that's when I have the most drive, but that really only gives me time to write 500 words. Go for that. Take that time every day and really go after your goal and be consistent. Be creative and hunt for those times in your day, the gaps in your schedule when you can go after that. If you use public transportation, you could take something with you. If you don't mind mumbling to yourself, you could dictate part of your story or your outline while you're on a train or on a bus, or you can write ideas down. You can work on your outline. If you're taking your lunch break, That's the easiest thing for me, is to take all of my lunch breaks and turn them into writing sessions. It means I can only, on a really good day, I guess on a good day I've gotten 800 words written during a lunchtime, a half-hour lunch break. That was a really good day. Most days I tend to get more around 400 words. But for me, having an outline, really knowing where I'm going to go, which I'll talk to you in a little bit more, not in this episode, in an upcoming episode about outlining and how that helps me get there. Knowing where I'm going means when I get this little time break every day, I just jump in and I drive. And I go there. Even if it's for a short little period of time, I can drive down that road as far as I can get for those 20-25 minutes. Even if it's a small amount, it helps you get there. And then the last thing, I just wanted to reinforce the idea of peer pressure. I talked to you a little bit about that while I was talking about NaNoWriMo. Getting a support structure, finding other people that are going down that same road. Find people like that. Social media can be a good way to find like-minded people, like-goaled people. People that are working towards the same outcome. And don't think of them as people that are competing to get to where you want to go and they're going to get there first. I encourage you not to see them that way. Think of yourself as someone that wants to go down that road. As this really awesome author that has a really great podcast, her name's Joanna Penn. She has this podcast named The Creative Pen. Really like that. Maybe I'll put the notes down in the episode notes. She encourages authors to not see everybody that's going down the same road as competition, because authors read more than other people. And she says that this is a group that's a self-sustaining market, meaning the more authors out there, the more readers you have, because authors read a lot more than the average reader. Who knows? Time will tell, I guess, if that's the case or not, as more and more creatives are made. But yeah, don't think of everybody out there as your competition. Because a lot of people out there, if you are a wonderful person and you're engaging and you're supportive, you're going to find those other people. They're going to be attracted to you, and you're going to find a bigger support network as well. So be that wonderful person that helps lift people up, because it'll help. It'll help you get there. So that's what I have for this episode 2 on the habit. Form that habit, work hard on it. If it's nothing else right now, just write down what your goal is. 100 words. I want to write 100 words for a whole month towards my story idea. I want to outline my whole story idea in 1 month. Whatever it is, create a goal and then work towards that. Be consistent and start making your way down there, because I know you can create an awesome, engaging story, and we're going to get there together. So, thanks for checking out this video.